Now, of course, the next thing we want to try out is stylizing this. All we got so far was just a black square, and that's because we didn't specify any kinds of styles, so we're just seeing the default. So let's go back to our document and set up some styles for this. Now, the first thing I'd like to point out is that fill is just one of the commands that we can use here. But instead of just saying fill, we can specify what the program should fill into our drawing or our rectangle. So first, I'm going to add a line right before our fill command, and we'll use this to specify a different fill style that we want to use. I'll start off with our context again. Remember, we're always going to be drawing into that 2D area. And this time, I'm going to specify a fill style. Now, this is a property, so we're just going to use an equal sign to set it up. And even though this says style, what it really means is fill color in this case. So I just need to give it a color definition. And probably the easiest thing for me to do at this point is just to use some of our simple named colors. So I'll just set this fill style to red. We'll save our changes, and let's go see what that looks like. I'll refresh the page, and there we can see our red color, and that means that we can fill our graphics with any color we want. Now, we can do more than just fill. We also can stroke the graphics as well, and that means putting a border or a line around the path of the graphics itself. In this case, that would be a square, so let's go ahead and add a stroke to our graphic square. First of all, to get the program to draw or render a stroke, we just call the stroke command. So let's do that just like we did context fill. I'll go down one line below our fill command, and we'll add context for our 2D drawing space, and this time we'll call the stroke function. Now again, I don't have to put any properties in there, and this will simply draw a border around our path. So let me save this, and we'll go back to our document and refresh the page. And now you can see a simple small black border right around our rectangle element. Now once again, we didn't specify what kind of stroke to add, so the program simply added the default. So let's go back and stylize that one as well. Just like our fill style, we have a stroke style property that lets us specify what color we want the stroke to be. So I'm going to put that before we call the stroke command so it'll use it. I'll just add a line. We'll start it off with context again. And this time we'll specify the stroke style property. And we'll set that equal to, this time, blue. In addition to being able to specify the color, we can also specify the line thickness. So let's add one more line here so we can try that out. I'll start it off with context again, since we're still drawing in that 2D space. And this time, I'm going to use a property called line width. And we'll set that equal to something thick, about 8 pixels here. Let's save that change, and let's go see what those two look like. Now when I refresh the page, you can see a nice stroked thick blue path around our rectangle that goes all the way around it. And now as you can see, we can not only draw shapes, but we can specify the colors and the styles for the borders and the fills. There are a couple more style options you can apply to strokes, but to see them better, let's draw some more graphics first. Of course, we can draw more than just rectangles. To start with, let's take a look at constructing a shape just out of lines. We've got a couple of really nice functions that are very easy to use in order to draw lines or polylines into your graphics canvas. The first one is called Move To, and it allows you to move, let's say, an imaginary drawing pencil to a specific point inside the canvas, and then we've got another function called Line To, which is like putting the pencil down and drawing a line. So let's go ahead and try those out, and I'm just going to draw a simple line down here in our canvas. I'll go back over to our document, and I'll move to the portion where we did our drawing, which was the rectangle at first. Let me just put a couple lines in there, and that'll separate our drawing from our styles down here at the bottom. And first of all, let me add in one of those drawing functions. I'll start with Move To. Once again, we use context to draw in our 2D area, and this time I'm going to call the Move To function. For Move To, we just need to give it an X and Y coordinate, and that specifies where our drawing is going to start. The X and Y coordinates all start at 0, 0 at the top left corner of each canvas element that you're working on. So if I specify 50 for X and 50 for Y, that'll mean I go over from the top left 50 pixels, and I'll go down from the top 50 pixels, and that will be my starting point. So let's set that up. I'll just put in 50 and 50. And then in order to draw our line, we're going to use the Line To function. So on the next line down, we'll start off with context, and we'll use line 2. Again, we just specify an x and a y coordinate in the same canvas system, and this will be the ending point of our line. So what I'll do is I'll stay at the x coordinate of 50, and I'll use a y coordinate this time of 200. That will come over from the left 50 pixels and go down from the top of our canvas element 200 pixels. Let's save those changes and see what we've drawn. When I refresh the page, you can see another line is drawn, and we can sort of estimate that that's 50 pixels over and down for the start point and 200 pixels down for the end point of the line. Now, just to make sure we understand how those coordinates work, let's go back and change this y coordinate here to 250 instead of 200. That should push it down a little bit further from the top line there. So we'll save our change, we'll go back and refresh the page, and there you can see my line extends 50 pixels more now. You can also see that the line has a flat, squared off end, and that's the default style that we'll see for all of our strokes. But of course, we can modify that. Probably one of the most popular modifications for this is using a rounded end to our line. And to do that, I'm going to use the line cap property. So let's go back, and where we're specifying the styles for our stroke, right here underneath line width, I'm going to add in another line starting with context. And this time we're going to do line cap. There's 3 values you can use here. The first one is but, and that is the default one. That's what we're already seeing, so we don't need to use that one. The one I'm most interested in is round, and you can also use square. But let's see what round looks like first. Now notice I'm adding the style definition before I call the stroke. If I do it afterwards, it won't be in time, and it won't be included in the style that the stroke makes. Let's save our change here, and we'll go back and we'll refresh the page and take a look at it. And now you can see that my line ends in a nice rounded line, a little bit softer look. If we try out the square end cap, it'll just flatten off these ends, and it'll look very much like the first line that we saw from before. But you might notice if you look really closely that these round ends make the line just a tiny bit longer than it originally was. The original one was cut off right exactly at the point, but if we add an end to it like a round or a square, it will extend the line just beyond it by whatever thickness the line is. Now you can see why that doesn't show up on our square because we've got these joined corners here.